Hello, alongside Ryan, sir, I'm Don Helbig, and welcome to the Pick Six, the podcast by the Attractions Group, where we bring you the latest stories from the attractions and amusement industry. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I love the pick six. Hey, before we get started, let me remind you guys that you can follow us on all your favorite podcast apps: Apple, Google, Spotify. You know where to find us. If you're watching us on YouTube, good for you. That's awesome. Smash that subscribe button, hit like, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, to get things started, our first news item on the Pick Six: Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, concluded its 38th season and is now gearing up for the 2024 one, set to kick off a week earlier this year in March. Currently, efforts are in progress to convert the Adventures in Imagination area into the upcoming Dolly Parton Experience. Now, that's slated to open in May. And Ryan, I am very much looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, me too. As I've grown older, I've come to appreciate the whole Dolly Parton aspect of Dollywood because she's a fantastic artist. She's an icon, and she does so much good. And I think that's what really matters. So I'm really happy that her legacy, no matter what happens to her, will always live on within this park. But-
Yeah, and the more time I spend in Pigeon Forge, the more things that you see she is involved with in the community.
oh yeah, yeah, and it's funny, and I've always wondered what her involvement is with Dollywood, because I was always under the assumption that she owns 5% of it, but licenses her name or something. But from what I've heard, from all accounts, that's not true. She owns most of Dollywood. So she really does have an equity position in that park, and she is some sort of decision maker. She probably leaves it in the hands of, the people that know what they're doing, but it's her vision when it comes down to it. So I just think that's the coolest
Yep,
thing.
she's involved.
Absolutely. All right, moving right along. Looks like that there's been some renderings revealed from the upcoming Lima Aquatic Center in Ohio, strategically positioned outside Spartan Stadium. This cutting-edge facility boasts an outdoor pool, a versatile multi-purpose pool, a pool house, and an adaptable enclosure for year-round use. It's not a year-round use pool. It was a pool for everything else. Anticipated to commence shortly, the project aims for a timely opening in 2025, which is sooner than you think in a lot of cases because it's weird that it's 2024 already, isn't it?
Yeah, just right around the corner. And you look at a place like Lima, um, it's good to have something like this, where the locals, have an aquatic center, a place to go, things to do, because you want to go to Cedar Point, you want to go to Kings Island. It's a little bit of a drive to go to those places. So it's great to have something, in your backyard that you can go to, and just have a good time with family and friends.
I agree. And it's something you can do every day. So it's Cedar Point, Kings Island. They're not thing you can't swing by there after work, but here is certainly something. All right.
That's right. Well, moving on, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay is gearing up for an exciting Mardi Gras celebration. It'll start January 13th. Visitors can indulge in flavorful Cajun inspired delights, witness a vibrant Mardi Gras parade adorned with festive characters and multicolored beads, and enjoy live music throughout the park. This lively celebration is going to continue until March 3rd. Sounds like something that you want to see and you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, Busch Gardens Tampa does a great job with their festivals and events. Mardi Gras is very low hanging fruit, and for a good reason. So I think that that's definitely, if you're going to be in the Central Florida area, that's definitely something to put on your bucket list, don't you think?
I agree. And like you said, they do great events. They get a little bit lost in the shuffle there when you've got, uh, you know, Disney World, you've got Universal, you've got SeaWorld. So in that Central Florida area, it kind of gets, takes kind of a back seat to those, but, very much, worth checking out, uh, for the events like this or just any other time that you're down there because it's a phenomenal park.
Yeah, I agree. Great coaster collection there. I would say that it's if you're a roller coaster junkie, That's the one that's gonna give you your fix, in Central Florida, more so than the other ones. Maybe a little bit of SeaWorld, but Busch Gardens definitely has the coaster collection. But
Yeah, just a
yeah,
beautiful park.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's kick it on. So next up, we're gonna go to Alton Towers. So Alton Towers unveiled the name of its revamped Nemesis ride. The new ride is set to make a comeback this spring after a comprehensive overhaul. The iconic coaster closed in November of 2022 for a significant refurbishment. It's the most significant refurbishment it's had in 30 years, by the way. It's going to have brand new 250 tone, 716-meter track. Teasing its return, the park released a captivating image alongside the ride's new identity, appropriately named Nemesis Returns. Nemesis has got to be on everyone's bucket list that hasn't been to Europe, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, it has to be. And, I've seen different thoughts on this name over the past couple of days out there on social media. I don't mind it, Nemesis Reborn. I think it's appropriate. I think it fits.
I'm fine with it. I'm glad they didn't just name it Nemesis or try to just rename it something else. I think I like it a lot, actually.
I do too. All right, well, moving on. Big things are coming to Orlando, and we see the first step now. Universal Orlando has closed the Legacy Store in City Walk, and the Epic Universe Preview Center will be taking its place. This change took effect January 7th, with Epic Universe set to welcome guests sometime in 2025. Again, just around the corner. We saw this when we were there a couple years ago. When things were just starting to go vertical out there. But this whole new world, this new experience, just around the corner.
Can
2025.
you believe that? It's yeah, early 2025 is the rumor I'm hearing. So that's we're at the point where it's less than a year from now. They might be welcoming guests, but Epic Universe is going to absolutely shake the foundation of Central Florida and probably the theme park industry because they're throwing everything they have at it.
Very excited about it. Can't wait. I think every time we do one of these pick six, there seems to be some kind of a development from Epic Universe. I know we've mentioned it many times.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there have been times when we have passed over Epic Universe developments because we've done it the last 3 weeks, but a lot to be. I mean, so they footage got. I don't want to say leaked out because I think it was taken legitimately, but they were testing a ride, so that's a huge step. You can see the buildings, you can see the infrastructure, like it's all there. It was just dirt the last time you and I were down there for IAPA for this previous year. Yeah.
What's
All
next?
right, so let's move along back to the home park, Kings Island. So Kings Island's 2023 season concluded last week, and this week the park unveiled details of its most ridden attractions. Unsurprisingly, roller coasters dominated the list, led by Orion, the newest addition, providing over 1.5 million rides. Additionally, five other coasters, including the Beast, Diamondback, Mystic Timbers, the Racer, and Banshee, exceeded the 1 million mark. Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, the Haunted Family Indoor Ride, and the top non-roller coaster attraction fell just short of 900,000 rides. 900,000 rides on that thing. Um, the park is set to kick off its 2024 season in April. So, uh, I mean, so you used to release this actual exact same figures every year. Are these numbers like really readily available, or are they hard to find?
I mean, the park keeps track of the operations department, the ridership on every attraction. So that was one of the first projects that I did when I got there, was just taking every year and just adding up the numbers. And it was always a great thing to get out to the media, because it's interesting, the different numbers that you have. um, so going back through, I mean, you look at 1.5 million, leading the parade there with Orion for 2023. Back in 1976, the Racer, 3.6 million. That's a park record for 1 year. So, 1.5 million, great. But back in the day, the Racer, was where it was at, and no other attraction in the park's history is ever going to top that 3.6 million rides given in 1 year. Just not possible now. The technology has changed. You've got seat belts, you've got individual lap bars, you've got people bringing their luggage, that they've got to check in when they get on the ride. just things like that. It's just a slower process dispatching trains, but it's good to see that they had that many rides surpass the 1 million mark. What I would have liked to have seen in the stories that they sent out is just a little note how the two new rides, Soul Spin and Cargo Loco, did. I think that would have been interesting to see, those numbers because the capacity is not, as high as the roller coasters, but it still would have been nice to see what they did, during the season. You could have said they were introduced in, June and they finished the year with this many rides given, and it would be a way to have circled back to what was new for 2023. But that's okay. I think it's nice that they continue, to share these numbers, after my departure there, and keep the guests, informed as to what the most popular rides are by ridership.
So, assuming that Soul Spin and Cargo Loco had really low ridership compared to these, do you think that the thought process for leaving them off was that the number just wouldn't appear that impressive? I mean, assuming it's in like the
Well, I don't think you can always look at it that way. I mean, I put out what Antique, Kings Mills Antique Autos did. That wasn't going to be, wasn't even going to cross the 500,000 mark, for a season. So I don't think that that's so much. You can qualify it by just saying, what the capacity is, or, it only had this many days of operation because it didn't open until mid-June. But I just think it would have been a nice way to just kind of celebrate their debut seasons to give them a mention like that.
yeah, that's true. Well, honestly, it was kind of a perfect storm working against them for the opening of the rides because it didn't open with the park, which I feel like hurt. And then which I what I consider to be worse is that Cargo Loco opened before Soul Spin. So there never truly was a real opening to Adventure Port. So I feel like the rides open quietly and then maybe this would be a good opportunity to circle back around and be like, by the way, we got these two new rides, but um
Yeah, you just didn't hear about them much after, you heard about them when they first opened together. With that, there was a little bit of, news stories out there and some discussion on social media and that. But then the rest of the summer it was kind of, forgotten. It was moved on to other things. Grand Carnival was starting. Then, it's the end of the Soak City season. Now it's time for Halloween Haunt. Tricks and Treats Fall Fest. Now it's time for Winterfest. And they just never were able to circle back to those rides. So I just would have liked to have seen that included. Obviously the numbers weren't going to be, like you said, impressive, but just a way to just kind of, pay tribute to, in their first seasons, these two new rides did this. And you could have said flat rides did this or something, because in terms of flat rides, how does it compare to the Monster, the Scrambler, Shake, Rattle, and Roll? Those other flat rides, you could have made that comparison with it.
yeah, I mean, are there any rides that have like, were there any numbers that ever stuck out to you of like, "I can't believe this ride did this many people," or, "I thought it did a lot more than that." Is there anything that, like, sticks in your head that you remember from looking at the numbers that was like that?
There were just some jumps some years, with different rides that, they would go from, say, 600,000 and that, all of a sudden it's got 850,000, or it had a record year and it had been around for 10 or 15 years. So there were some things like that that would occasionally, jump out that a ride kind of surged all of a sudden. And sometimes it would be identified, you could identify it because a new ride opened in that area. So there was more traffic in the park maybe there. Or maybe, something else, came about that helped it get to that number.
So, that was actually gonna be my next question. So, for example, when Firehawk/Orion opened, did it boost Flight of Fear's ridership typically? Like, since it draws people to the area?
Slightly, slightly, not as much as was anticipated by me. It did not. But that ride too, it's again, it's got, not the highest capacity. So you're not going to be able to gain that much, with that ride.
Yeah. But I don't wanna say too many negative things about that ride because I love that ride and I would not ever want it to go anywhere. Alright.
No, but I just, like I said, just circling back to it, it just would have been a nice little nod. And, like you talked about, that maybe you don't do it because it's not a million rides. It's not going to look as impressive. But when you put it up against all the other flat rides in the park, and you qualify it that way and you make a comparison, among flat rides, it ranked, fourth, fifth, whatever it might have been, then it becomes impressive.
I agree. Cool. Alright. So let's move on to the listener question of the day. So I guess I'm the one reading this one. So This question is definitely directed at you. So this is from Dylan Young. So he's doing Hershey Park for the first time. What's the ride to head to first to experience all the roller coasters in the park? So it looks like he needs a little bit of strategy. What would you head to first at Hershey Park?
Well, first of all, Dylan, you're in for a real treat, and not just because it's Hershey, but the park is fantastic. So much to see, so much to do. Just a number, whether it's roller coasters, flat rides, just a great collection of rides. Good food. You're going to have a great time. But the first ride to go to when you get there, go ride Wyatt. That's going to have the longest line. It's one of the best roller coaster rides in the world. I'm a big fan of it. So I would go to that ride first because you're going to want to ride it multiple times, but at least get it knocked out quickly. Um, Candemonium, got to ride Candemonium. That's one of the best V&M coasters out there. I really enjoyed that ride. Ranks high on my list. The Comet, you know, old wooden roller coaster. They've got new trains this year. That's a can't miss ride. One of my favorite wooden coasters. Now, I have that a lot higher on my list than most people do, but I think it's a fantastic ride. Some fun rides, Jolly Rancher. You've got the Lightning Racer. So Dylan, when you enter the park, you're coming through the front gate, take a left and ride Wildcats Revenge to start your day. And then you're just going to have a great time riding all the other coasters and all the other flat rides in the park.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. So you heard it here first. Wildcats Revenge. That's where you want to head first for your visit to Hershey Park. Hey, Dylan, shoot us a tweet at attractions_GRP once you go. Let us know how it is. We'd love to hear your experience. I know I've never been to Hershey Park, admittingly, but Don seems to like it. So very cool. Very sweet park, from what I understand. All right. So this wraps up another Pick Six. Make sure that you can follow us on your favorite podcast apps: Apple, Google, Spotify. You know, uh, you can watch us on YouTube. Just search for the Attractions Group podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the little like button. Leave a comment and tell a friend. All right. Well done. Until next week. This is the Attractions Group podcast.